It's being called the largest single-day bribery bust in DOJ history. The U.S. Attorney announcing Tuesday more than 70 current and former employees are now facing charges for allegedly accepting cash payments from contractors in exchange for awarding NYCHA contracts. Joining us now to discuss is Congressman Ritchie Torres. Congressman, you grew up in public housing, so you really have a much deeper connection to the story than many other leaders. On a personal level, what is your reaction to this NYCHA takedown?
Well, I'm in a state of shock. The scale of the corruption is nothing short of staggering. As you said, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District unveiled 70 charges, bribery charges and extortion charges. And it's the largest number of bribery charges in a single day in the history of DOJ. And the New York City Housing Authority is at the heart of it. One case of bribery or a few cases of bribery could be explained away as outliers. But 70 cases of bribery affecting 1/3 of all properties in NYCHA, that points to a systemic failure of oversight and management. That points to a culture of corruption that is too glaring to ignore and desperately needs reform.
And you have been a heavy critic of NYCHA and the lack of oversight over these micro contracts. So what exactly are these micro contracts, and what would you say is the problem with them?
Well, for more than 5 years, I've been sounding the alarm about micro contracts, which to me is a breeding ground for influence peddling and corruption. So NYCHA contracts are typically subject to competitive bidding. The exception to the rule is a micro contract, which is a no-bid contract, for which the legal threshold is $10,000. So if a contract is below $10,000, it is exempt from competitive bidding. And so a superintendent could easily structure a contract below $10,000 in order to escape competitive bidding requirements, and can easily steer those contracts toward friends, family, and preferred vendors. And therein lies the risk of corruption.
And according to prosecutors, the defendants allegedly demanded up to 20% of the contract value. I think the question so many are asking is, how does something like this go unnoticed and for so long?
Well, my understanding is that those 70 current and former employees received over $2 million in kickbacks in exchange for steering over $13 million to their preferred vendors. So it was widespread corruption, and it speaks to the failure of oversight and management on the part of the leadership of NYCHA. There's too much complacency at the agency, and there needs to be a real commitment to improving contracting at public housing. The Department of Investigations made a number of recommendations to the New York City Housing Authority when it came to contracting reform, and NYCHA did not fully and faithfully implement those recommendations. And so part of the problem has been the lack of responsiveness from NYCHA.
And Congressman, yesterday you introduced a bill that would demand more transparency within public housing agencies. Tell us how this legislation would work.
So I'm introducing legislation that would require the public disclosure of all contracts, including micro contracts, including no-bid contracts. I believe strongly that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and that we need greater transparency around these micro contracts, which are uniquely susceptible to fraud, corruption, and abuse. Micro contracts are never disclosed and therefore can easily fly under the radar, and we need to bring them into the public light.
NYCHA CEO Lisa Bobahayed condemned those involved, saying in a statement that NYCHA has zero tolerance for wrongful and illegal activity. She also said in a recent interview that there's going to be changes to how NYCHA handles smaller contracts for faster repair work. Do you think her changes will have an impact? Do you think there needs to be change at the top of NYCHA?
Well, I feel like the CEO should be given a chance to implement these reforms, and my understanding is that NYCHA has been cooperative with the investigation, but I can assure you that I'm going to be watching carefully, because public confidence in NYCHA has been shaken, and we owe it to the public to make NYCHA work. NYCHA is too big to fail. It is too important to the affordability of our city to fail. NYCHA is the largest provider of affordable housing, not only in New York City, but throughout the country, housing 500,000 New Yorkers. 1 in every 17 New Yorkers depends on NYCHA for housing. So we owe it to the public to make it efficient, to make it honest, and to make it work.